Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Max.
And this is Movies Actually, where we take a look at the movies that we've so mischievously meddled with in Maybe Movies and give them a proper review.
Mm-hmm.
This time we are taking a look at Watership Down. And this is the 1978 animated film by Martin Rosen, based on the book by Richard Adams.
Violet's gone.
So for those of you out there who've seen this film, you know all about the trauma.
Although, I must admit, I think I first saw this, I would have been about 8.
8, so when would that...
So that would have been about 82.
I think we both saw the same showing. It was the first time on the BBC or something?
Probably, yeah.
So 1982, I was 9.
Yeah.
I was 9 when I saw this.
I must admit, I know we talk about it now, and it's generally kind of popular to mention the fact, Jesus, you're showing this stuff to kids. But as a kid, I was never really bothered by it.
I wasn't bothered by it, but I definitely noticed, oh my gosh,
no,
there's blood and there's wounds and people are clearly dying. Rabbits are clearly dying, you know.
The only two parts that I really remember being slightly taken aback by is that very end scene between the dog and General Woundwork.
Oh, right. It creeped me out from the very beginning, all of Fiver's little visions, that... It's Fiver's vision with Holly's commentary, especially with the story of what happened to the Warren.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and all of those rabbits pushing up through the earth and just, expiring. Oh, God. I was like, this isn't Disney.
I think probably the first time I saw it, I was too kind of desensitized to it from just watching, too much Tom and Jerry. The only difference is that this is a bit more gory.
But that's what I mean. It wasn't cartoon violence. It was, quasi-realistic violence.
I unfortunately couldn't distinguish between the two.
Oh, okay.
Fair
enough.
I was actually more disturbed by the music. Even when we were watching it earlier, that whole beginning bit with Fiver and Hazel, when he has his initial vision and he sees the field.
Oh, right, yeah.
The music in the background there, that's what creeped me out. That I could feel it. I could feel all the hairs going up on the back of my neck.
Oh, right. I see what you mean. For me, that's it's part of that whole experience of that moment.
It was definitely something that I kind of looked forward to watching whenever it came on. I think it was because I was moved by it. I just wasn't afraid of it.
No, don't get me wrong. I wasn't afraid of it. I just was shocked by the brutal honesty of the film.
Yeah, I was too young to kind of look at it in those terms. It wasn't until...
But also at the same time, I appreciated it for that, because it was being pretty honest to kids about stuff.
About animal life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
I mean, from what I understand of it, the book itself, if you've never seen it, if you've read the book or seen the film, in essence, it's an allegory, very much in the style of the epic poems and stories of Homer and Virgil.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, especially on the Odyssey, you can see quite heavily in that.
Oh, I hadn't considered that, but I can see what you're saying. Yes, I can see the elements in there, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure under modern sensibilities they'll say, oh, it's anti-this or anti-that. There's a lot more broader scope to it than that. It's really about a lot of things. It's about deductive reasoning over sort of naked emotion, isn't it? Championing freedom over...
Oh, absolutely.
Freedom over the state, or the individual over the state.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And... it does it in such a way that it never feels like it's drumming these agendas, or there's, they're down your throat.
No. You never feel preached at by that film at all. No, that's one thing it doesn't do.
Interestingly enough, I did find out Michael Rosen, who wrote, directed, and produced this, also wrote, produced, and directed the 1982 adaptation of Richard Adams' other book, The Plague Dogs. Yeah.
But you see, I've never seen the Plague Dogs, but I remember it being at the video store.
Exactly the same. I remember seeing clips of it and being more freaked out by the clips that I saw of that than I ever was of...
Well, yes, the subject matter was so much darker. I didn't see the film, but you read the blurb on the back of the thing and you're like, nope, this is going to be...
Yeah, isn't it a pair of animal test subjects, isn't it? That escaped from a lab.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have a look at it. There you go,
Maybe we should. Who knows? Maybe we should.
And then we can give ourselves nightmares by finding something to do that with.
Oh, God, no, just no.
What would you do? Plague Dogs in the Hand on the Baskervilles? No, don't start me off.
No.
Okay.
It's not that show.
I always had a soft spot. It always makes me feel like a child watching it again. I don't know about you. Even again when we watched it earlier, I'm picturing myself sat in my living room, windows over there, leads to the front door of the front garden. It's either a Sunday or, as you were saying earlier, it's the run up to Easter or it's Easter Sunday when they're showing it.
Okay, yes, I see what you mean. Yes, it does. It's got that feeling of childhood.
Yeah, certainly all of the nostalgia bells are ringing.
But yes, it was something that happened when you were a kid, and it was always something that was on a bank holiday, or in the summer, or it was on Easter time or something like that. I always remembered just always being taken away by the beauty of the animation, the hand-painted background, very obviously hand-painted backgrounds and things like that.
The music as well, there's something
about the music, but for me, I really did appreciate its brutal honesty.
Really cared about the characters, I remember that. I remember there's something almost soporific about the music as well. It just lulls you in, and that's possibly why as well, because in most cases, apart from at the end, the music tends to be at odds with the violence.
I was going to say I was never overly taken with it. The soundtrack's very clarinet heavy, and I don't find that the kind of instrument that it doesn't have any sort of comforting quality to it. At least not for me. It always puts me slightly on edge whenever music involving heavy clarinet is involved.
I can see why. I understand that, but in this particular instance, just the way it's played, and it fits, and I just find it quite inviting.
Alright. You see, that's how I feel about the song, but not necessarily how I feel about the rest of the soundtrack.
I suppose we will have to talk about Bright Eyes as well.
Bright Eyes. Well, you can talk about it a little bit. I
must admit, that was, as a kid, that was the moment. After the first time I'd seen it, if it was on again, that's normally where I'd go off and make a drink or go to the toilet.
So I always find it quite touching myself. There you go.
I think after the first time it was, and then the next time I saw it was a few years later when you start getting into your teenage rebellious kind of angst and angry, and you don't want to.
Oh, right.
This is all soppy. And
I just remember hearing it on the radio a bunch before I ever saw the movie, so I knew the song. So it was a familiar, comforting thing to me. So I suppose at this point we should actually talk about the film itself. So for those of you who've never seen the movie before, it's the tales of the adventures of a small group of rabbits who leave their warren because of a warning from one of their members who appears to have visions of some sort. And it's all about the journey they undertake and what happens to them on their way to where they end up. Is the very short version of the plot without spoiling things.
Again, I must admit, I've not read the book.
No, me neither. I've only ever seen the film.
I would love to read the book because I would love to know what's different about it. So it really centres on two brothers, Hazel and Fiver. And Fiver is kind of described as something of a seer amongst the Warren. He does, as you say, he has visions, he has premonitions, or just feelings about things.
He has feelings about things that turn out right.
Yeah. It's a wonderful cast, and I mean the film itself is as Sam said, very beautifully drawn. The voice actors in it are fantastic. It's a kind of a smorgasbord of English actors from the time. So Michael Hordern, Richard Briers, John Hurt, Hannah Gordon, Denham Elliott, Joss Ackland.
I thought he was in there.
Yeah. Yes, Joss Ackland is the Black Rabbit.
Of course, yeah.
And the very wonderfully named, and apparently in his last work, Zero Mostel as Kiar, the girl.
Oh well, I never knew that. Oh, well, there you go. So we all learned something today.
Sorry, almost forgot. Roy Kinnear as well.
Oh, of course. Yes, great actor. Gone before his time.
Yes, yeah, whilst filming. I remember that. When he was on the news. He was filming for something. I can't remember what the film was, but he was thrown by a horse.
Such a shame.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But yes, you see, just from that, you can imagine like the breadth of the talent that's involved, in the film, and it's wonderful. I mean, it's been revisited a few times. I know the BBC did a mini series of it in about 2000, 2001, and then they did another film adaptation of it in 2018. I
knew about the 2018 one. I didn't know about the 2000s one. Yes.
Which I must admit I've not seen either, and I don't really have any plans to, because it's the definitive version of the story.
It literally doesn't need another version. It's not that it's perfect, it's just that the story doesn't need another retelling. So I'm always happy to stick with the original. So, after all that, do we recommend it? Yeah, absolutely. Do we recommend it for your small children? Maybe not so much. Wait till they're a little bit older so they can appreciate some of the finer nuances and are probably not quite so freaked out by some of the brutal honesty of this film.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to know whether to recommend it or not for kids, because I suppose it depends on how precious you want to be with your children. But I'd say if you showed it to them about the ages that we were, so I mean that's the thing. So if we were about 8 or 9 when we saw it,
yes.
The question is,
I wouldn't recommend it for a 4 or 5 year old. For example.
No. Well, I was just thinking. I mean, how much more savvy would you say 8 or 9 year olds are today compared to when we were 8 or 9?
Well, they've seen a little bit more of the world. It doesn't take much.
I mean, considering, I'd say... Sorry, just to get a little bit of a plug in, because I know... I don't know, I'm guessing that this was a heavy influence on my dad for his first book, which is a children's book, which has similar kind of ideas inside in it.
I can see it, yeah.
Yeah, and that, when I came to deciding what kind of age category to target that from, or minimum age, was about 8 or 9, and I know I've had a review for it from a 9-year-old, and they really enjoyed it.
Okay, good. You see, that's your dad's... I mean, obviously, I don't know what the tone of the writing was in Watership Down, but in your dad's book, I would actually recommend it possibly even for like a 7-year-old, if they were, literate enough to read it. It's not too harsh. This, like I say, doesn't gild the lily. So, a bit of parental guidance, a bit of PG advice, as to whether or not you should show it to your whole family, if you've got particularly young uns. But it's a great movie. It's beautifully put together. It's got a brilliant cast, and it's probably worth at least one watch.
And no agendas.
None whatsoever.
And there's some lovely things in it as well. I just love the way that they've all got their own names for things.
Yeah, I like that. The mythology that the rabbits had. Yeah. I do enjoy that.
So yes, I definitely as well would highly recommend checking this film out. It's, again, you're not going to be disappointed. And maybe someday we will look at the Plague Dogs.
Yeah, just to add to more trauma.
Well, desensitized to this one now.
Well, yeah, that's true.
But I would like to say, because it's interesting, because this is about the only thing in this particular style that I've ever seen.
Yeah, Plague Dogs is made in exactly the same style.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'd like to see something more of that. If we do, we will come back to you about that one. I've got a feeling that's going to be no. Do not show that to your kids.
I've got a feeling you might be right. But for Watership Down, I think it's a thumbs up from me.
And a thumbs up from me as well.
So, make of that what you will, folks. We'll be back next month with another movie. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, guys, and I will see you later.
In fact, we will see you this time next month in the lee of the tree.